Alright, so looking at our first shapes here, so this we know is important. Alright, that's going to help us match things up. And we want to find EH. Alright, so we're going to start off with setting up our proportion. So a proportion is one ratio that equals another ratio. It's really important that when we're writing these, that whatever shape we choose to be in our numerator, it stays in our numerator. So I'm going to say that this is shape A, and I'm going to make sure that only shape A goes into my numerator, and that this is shape B, and it's going to go in my denominator. And it doesn't matter which one you put where, as long as it stays in either the numerator or denominator. Okay, or a proportion is not going to work. So I'm going to choose, there's only two sides that they're even labeled in shape A, so I'm going to put 30 on top, and then I'm going to look over in my other shape, and I'm going to think about what side corresponds with this FG. What corresponds with FG? So FG corresponds with BC. Again, remember we can look at this right here. BC and FG correspond with each other because these shapes are going to be turned and twisted and transformed. That's what it's called when you rotate it and translate it and all this stuff. So we have to be really careful matching things up. So again, the 30 matches up with the 12. So that's going to be one of our ratios, and we don't have to worry about reducing today. Okay, so again, we don't need to worry about simplifying it today. Then our other side that are corresponding, again in my big shape, my A shape that's going in my numerator, that is my X side. And the side that corresponds in the little shape is AD, which is 16. So that's going to go into my denominator. So what I have now is a proportion. And we reviewed briefly how to solve proportions. Who can help us out with how to solve this? Good, we're going to use cross products. So we're going to say 12 times X is going to equal 30 times 16. And obviously you're going to want to use a calculator for this. Okay? So 30 times 16 is 480. What is my second step then after I multiply those? Divide. So 480 divided by 12. 480 divided by 12 is what? 40. And that is my answer. So the missing side right here is 40. And that is how we find a missing side in similar shapes. We set up that proportion. So the only time this gets complicated is when the shapes are really twisted around and it's hard to match up things. So you just have to be very, very careful when you're matching things up. All right, so let's look down here at the second problem. Are there any questions on the first problem, though? All right, so I'm going to get rid of that and scroll up to our triangles here. So in these triangles, once again, I really want to pay attention to this here so that I'm matching sides up correctly. And I also want to make sure that when I set up my proportion, that the same triangle stays on top and the same triangle stays on bottom. So my very first triangle, it doesn't matter if it's the bigger one or the smaller one, I'm going to call that triangle A. And this one I'm going to call triangle B, and it's going to go on the bottom. Okay? So we're staying organized. Now the two sides that are given to me in my first triangle, I'm going to look at SU. SU is 35. What corresponds to SU? What corresponds to SU? DF. So don't rely on your picture to know that. Rely on this right here. If I'm looking at SU, first and last, I'm going to be looking at the first and last, DF. So 35 corresponds with your X, and then your TU, TU is 45, that's going to correspond with your 36. TU and EF. Okay? Do you see how I'm matching those sides up? Again, it kind of goes along with what we were doing yesterday. So if you were okay with matching sides up yesterday, then today should not be that big a deal. The only extra step today is solving these proportions. So we're always going to be using cross products, so it's the same steps. I like choosing whatever my variable is with first as my first product. So 45x equals 35 times 36. Is 1260, correct? And then 1260 divided by 45 is 28. So the missing side over here is 28. All right, I would like for you to go ahead and try number 3 on your own right now. Please try number 3 on your own right now. And I'm going to pause the video so you have time to do that. All right, let's see how you are doing on these. Now, I put on some highlighting here to kind of show you how things matched up. I was looking at JK. So JK was listed first, and I see PQ is listed first, so I highlighted it at PQ over there in yellow, that they correspond. And then my JM is first and last. My P and S are first and last, so I highlighted those in pink. So we need to make sure that one of the shapes goes on top in our numerator and the other shape goes on the bottom. I always just make the first shape go on top and the second shape go on bottom. That's just the way that I do it. It's not like it's the right way or the wrong way, okay? So I'm going to start with my JK 36. And again, this yellow side matches up with the yellow side over there, which is your X. So hopefully you have a ratio of your 36 and X. And then your other ratio would be, again, this A shape has to be on top. Since we put 36 on top, 21 has to be on top. And 21 corresponds with 35. So that would be your other ratio. So again, there are other ways that you could set this up and still end up with the same answer. So don't think that, uh-oh, I'm going to be wrong quite yet. All right? So now we're going to do cross products. We're going to do 21 times X. And I'm going to do 36 times 35. Just coincidence that this problem also has a 36 and a 35. So that's going to give me 21X equals 1260. Is that right? So if I do 1,260 divided by 21, what is that? 60? All right, so let's think about where did you go wrong then? All right, so in number 4, the thing that is a little bit more challenging about problem 4 is what? Decimals. Now the decimals is not going to change at all how we're doing these problems. Once again, whatever shape you're choosing for your numerators, even if you want to put an N for numerator instead of shape A and B, you could put N for numerator and you could put D for denominator. Maybe we should start doing that and that'll be easier. Okay? So all of these numbers are going in our numerator, all of those numbers will go into our denominator. So setting up my proportion again, I'm going to choose a side that's labeled from my numerator shape. I'm going to choose 7.2. So the 7.2, which is A, can't even read my own handwriting, AB. AB, I see over here, matches up with KL. So KL is X. And then my other side that is labeled in my numerator shape is the 11.2, which is AD. And AD and KJ match up. So AD is 11.2, KJ is 14. Does the highlighting help you see also how things correspond? All right, Stephen. I need to at least see what did you get for 7.2 times 14? I need for you to at least write down what is 7.2 times 14. Daphne. So we're ready to solve this proportion. I have a feeling that some of you have probably already solved it. So I'm going to do 11.2 times X. And I'm going to do 7.2 times 14. 7.2 times 14 is 100.8 and dividing that by 11.2, you get 9. So 9 is the size of KL. Alright, so we're moving on these last 15 minutes of class to these two shapes that are kind of nestled inside of each other. So we're going to be looking at problem number 5 first. Now what might be helpful for you, and again, might be helpful for you, is over to the side of this shape, pulling out this smaller triangle and kind of drawing this smaller triangle over there. And again, that's not a requirement, but that's something that you can do. Okay? Something that you can do. I'm going to, obviously I colored in my small triangle in yellow. I'm going to highlight the outside of my big triangle, the entire outside of it, in pink. Okay? And then I'm going to come over here. Here's my big one. My big one's labeled A, B, C. And my little one is going to be D, E, C. So they both share that C. They both share the C. Now, what is the most challenging part of this one, I think, is making sure you understand what each of these sides is represented by. Now, AB, how long is AB? 20. So I'm going to put a 20 here. That corresponds, AB corresponds to what? AB corresponds to DE. And how long is DE? 15. So let's make that our first ratio. Okay? Let's make 20 in our numerator, and let's make 15 in our denominator. So again, I'm going to make my big shape my numerator, and this little shape my denominator. The 20 and the 15 correspond. Now it's going to get a little bit more challenging. In my big shape is BC on the bottom. BC. BC would be the X plus the 36. Have you found, like when you're talking about like irregular shapes, you know how you sometimes have to combine pieces to find the length? So it's kind of like the idea of that. So you have to take your X plus 36. So again, BC is X plus 36. So that is what's going to go in my numerator up here, X plus 36. Don't worry, I'll tell you how to solve it. When we're looking at EC, how long is EC? Just 36. So BC is X plus 36. EC is just the 36. Before I worry about how to solve this proportion, what questions do you have for me about the way that I set this up? Make sense then? I'm doing that good a job explaining? Oh, sometimes. Okay. Now, I want to make sure that I have plenty of room to solve this proportion, so I'm going to go ahead and erase those two pictures that I drew over there, just so that I have plenty of room to solve my proportion. Alright, so again, I said that I like to choose the first cross product that contains my variable. So that's going to be 15 times X plus 36. Look at the way that I set that up. 15 times X plus 36. We've done things like that before. And then my other cross product equals 20 times 36. I do want you to set these up the way that I'm writing it right now. So please don't just do it your shorthand way. Make sure you're writing it just like mine, since these are a lot more complex than the other ones are. How do you think that I'm going to do 15 times X plus 36? Distribute. Very, very good. Distribute. So we're going to do 15 times X, and we're going to do 15 times 36. So that would be 15X plus, and then in my calculator I'm going to do 15 times 36. Thank you, 540. And that's going to equal 20 times 36. 720. And now we're going to be solving a two-step equation. So we've been doing that all year as well. My first step would be subtract 540. So do 720 minus 540. So that's going to leave me with 15x equals 180. And then we're going to do 180 divided by 15. And we get our final answer of 12. However, that would be lovely if that was a stopping point. But I want to know, well, actually it says find BE. So BE is 12. X is 12. If I was going to ask you what is BC, besides that, B all the way to C would be what? How'd you get 48? Very good. 12 plus your 36, x plus 36, that would be 48. Okay, so pay attention always to what they're asking you. In this question, they are just asking you what BE is, and that is your x. All right, I'm going to have you try 6 because it's very similar. You don't want to try it? All right, let's take a vote then. Raise your hand if you want to try it on your own. Hands down. Raise your hand if you want to do it together. I think you're going to try it on your own. So you know, hey listen, you know that if you try it on your own, that we are going to go over it together. So just try in pencil, and then you can go back and erase it. And if you get stuck, then just sit there and wait. If you get stuck, sit there and wait, but you're not going to sit there and talk. Got it. Let's talk about this though. All right, so I drew those 2 pictures over there. I separated the 2 rectangles apart because I think that helps a lot of people see what we are doing. So in our big rectangle, ABCD, how tall it is the 14 plus the 7, and I have that written up there. 14 plus 7 is 21. And then wide, again, the big rectangle, ABCD, it is the 18 plus x on the bottom. Then I pulled out my little rectangle, AGFE, and it is 14 tall and 18 wide. And then I highlighted the corresponding sides so that we could visualize that. So when I'm making my proportion, I'm going to make this my numerator and this my denominator. So I'm going to put a 21 corresponds with my 14, and 18 plus x corresponds with my 18. All right, any questions about the way that I set up that proportion? Yes, Sophie. 14 plus 7, yeah, that would work. It was just probably a little bit more time consuming because if you then have to distribute in your proportion, because you want to go ahead and combine those. I mean, these we can't combine, the 18 and the x, but I would go ahead and combine your 14 and 7 before you try to solve your proportion. All right, so I'm going to erase these pictures over here so that I actually have space to solve this proportion. And those pictures aren't really a necessity when you are solving. So I'm going to do 14 times my 18 plus x equals 21 times 18. So 14 times 18 is 252 plus 14x. We know that we could flip-flop those two terms. 14x plus 252 means the same thing. And then 21 times 18 is 378. Next step would be subtracting your 252. That gives you 126. And then dividing by your 14. That gives you that x is 9. Now I'm going to pay attention to what this is asking me. It says find ED. E to D is just what x is, so your answer would be 9. However, if the question said what is AD, how much is AD? How long is AD? 18 plus 9, which is 27. Very good. All right, I'm going to stop this video. It'll get posted. You'll have your assignment tomorrow during class.